Well, he is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. And Duty to Warn was a book that came out when he was first in office. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person he is. And I think he's the worst thing that ever happened to the United States. And his cruelty...
Rosie O'Donnell just torched Trump so badly, Mar-a-Lago might need a fire department on speed dial. She went in hard, no filter, calling him out for his endless rants, reality TV delusions, and that ever-growing list of lawsuits. But hold on to your wigs. Trump's meltdown was instant, explosive, and absolutely unhinged. Caps lock tweets? Check. Bizarre insults? You bet. It's a battle of the titans, and Rosie just wiped the floor with him. Rosie just wiped the floor with him. Mop, bucket, and all.
What's going on, mainstream media? You're not doing your job. And you haven't since he came down that escalator. You haven't been doing your job. If you would have told the truth about him from the beginning and stood up to the lies that Mark Burnett sold America on The Apprentice, we wouldn't be in this position. But you normalized Trump, and that's what Time Magazine did. Man of the Year, Donald Trump. Well, you, Time Magazine. You, seriously.
The internet didn't just catch fire, it spontaneously combusted the second Rosie O'Donnell lit up Trump like a Christmas tree in Times Square. The clip? Pure dynamite. Rosie unleashed a verbal tsunami so brutal, even Trump's spray tan looked like it was sweating. Within minutes, Twitter, X, was a war zone of laughing emojis, shocked reactions, and MAGA diehards furiously typing in all caps.
Where were you when, in the 2016 primaries, Trump starts insulting you? Did you see that live, or did someone tell you Trump's talking about you right now?
I was watching it live.
You were watching it live?
And my kids were in the room with me. And they said, Mom, what, did he just say you? I go, yes, he did. And he's not only insulting me, he's insulting any woman that he doesn't think lives up to his standards of what a woman is. And that's the kind of person that this man is, and why he's a danger to the world.
So, what triggered this epic meltdown? Oh, just decades of built-up frustration. Trump has been hurling insults at Rosie since flip phones were still a thing, calling her everything from a slob to a loser, like some broken record stuck in 2006. But this time, Rosie wasn't just clapping back, she was launching an all-out comedic airstrike. Maybe it was one too many Truth Social rants, or maybe she just woke up and chose violence, but she went in like she had a score to settle.
Like the Rosie O'Donnell debate. I like debating when you have a great... Remember the Rosie O'Donnell?
Yeah, that was very funny. Megan,
crazy thing, Megan. That was a hell of a question, man. If I didn't come up with that answer...
It was a great line.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
And when I said that, the place went crazy. And she kept talking. No, she had like 10 of the...
Yeah, well, Megan said you said it to other people and you admitted you did. But it was fun.
And settle it, she did. The internet exploded instantly. Within the hour, the video was climbing faster than Trump's legal fees. TikTok was flooded with remixes, reaction videos, and Gen Zs summarizing the beef in 30-second clips. Twitter, X, trended with hashtags like Shock Rosie Goes Nuclear, Shock Trump Meltdown 2025, and Someone Check on Mar-a-Lago. Even late-night hosts barely had time to finish their monologues before rewriting them to include Rosie's roast.
Are you watching this moron speak? Can he form a coherent sentence? He is the worst thing that ever happened. Period. And he's just babbling like an incoherent asshole. He's like Dr. Doom. He's the worst thing. Oh, you know what? He just lies, lies, lies. I am done with Donald Trump.
The mainstream media, they had a field day. CNN called it O'Donnell's most savage takedown yet. Fox News frantically tried to spin it as just another example of Hollywood bullying. Meanwhile, comedians, celebrities, and even random Meanwhile, comedians, celebrities, and even random Twitter users who had nothing to do with the situation couldn't resist jumping in. It wasn't just a moment, it was an event.
I watched him yesterday. He couldn't put two sentences together. And it's not an age thing, it's a competence thing. He can't talk. And of course, he has to debate, I guess. I hope he's going to debate. I'm going to debate. You know, I don't want to debate people that I'm 60 points up on, because what's the purpose in doing that?
Does that mean no presidential primary debates for you?
Well, I don't see it. Look.
None? How about do the one just before Iowa? Do it, I'll moderate it.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. You know, like you did with the Rosie O'Donnell.
Would it be a deal breaker for you?
Look,
Would it?
Look,
Would it?
The people want a smart president. Ronald Reagan didn't do it. Nixon didn't do it. Nobody does it. I mean, like you asked me a question when you were moderating the debate for Fox, that frankly, if I didn't come up with the answer only Rosie O'Donnell, I would have had a problem with that. That was a bad...
Rosie's clip was unstoppable. People were sharing it like it held the secret to eternal youth. Facebook moms quoting it in PTA meetings. Reddit breaking down the roast like it was a historical event. Even LinkedIn got weirdly involved, with some professional trying to explain how Rosie's takedown was a masterclass in public speaking. At this point, the only person not having fun was Trump himself. While the rest of the world was grabbing popcorn, you just know he was furiously pacing through Mar-a-Lago, barking at aides, and composing a furious all-caps rant about has-been comedians. And let's be real, he definitely watched the clip at least 50 times, seething with every replay. By the end of the day, the damage was done. Rosie had dominated headlines, hijacked social media, and left Trump scrambling for a comeback. But let's face it, there's no comeback from getting verbally power-washed in front of the entire internet.
Dancing, whatever. And so he held a press conference to announce whether or not she was going to retain her crown. Yeah. And then she started to cry.
She did.
So I just want to thank Donald is giving me a second chance.
It was brilliant.
And there he is, hair looping, going, everyone deserves a second chance. And I'm going to give her a second chance.
Her hair is perfect for that. Your hair is perfect.
Rosie O'Donnell versus Donald Trump is the Hollywood versus politics feud that refuses to die, a never-ending heavyweight match where neither side will throw in the towel. It's been nearly 2 decades of relentless verbal jabs, social media snipes, and headline-grabbing meltdowns. And the best part? Trump still can't let it go. It all started in 2006 when Rosie, then co-hosting The View, took one look at Trump's public antics and decided she had seen enough. She called out his business failures, his overblown ego, and, let's be honest, his absolutely tragic hair situation. She didn't just poke fun at him, she shredded him like a late-night roast, and Trump did what Trump does best, lost his entire mind. That single moment ignited a full-blown obsession. Trump didn't just clap back, he declared an eternal war. He stormed onto talk shows, fired off insults in every direction, and somehow made Rosie his personal arch-nemesis. If you asked him about economic policies back then, he'd probably find a way to say, well, first of all, Rosie O'Donnell is a total disaster.
Rosie O'Donnell's disgusting. I mean, both inside and out. You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. Rosie attacked me personally because I was very happy when her talk show failed. The other thing that failed, and this was a real monster, and everybody was suing her, was her magazine. Her magazine called Rosie was a total disaster. So I loved it. I gloat over it. I think it's wonderful because I like to see bad people fail. Rosie failed. I'm happy about it.
And he didn't stop. Years passed, but Trump kept bringing her up like a scorned ex who just couldn't move on. In 2011, he hopped on Twitter, before it was X, back when social media was still kind of tolerable, and hurled out another round of name-calling. Then, during the infamous 2015 GOP debate in front of millions of Americans watching live, he somehow managed to make Rosie O'Donnell an official part of the presidential discourse. Asked about his long history of sexist comments, Trump had a golden opportunity to smooth things over. Instead, he grinned, shrugged, and said, "Only Rosie O'Donnell." That moment, it proved that Rosie wasn't just another celebrity he disliked. She was an obsession. While most presidents were out making foreign policy decisions, Trump was still fuming over a joke Rosie made when flip phones were still in style. The fact that he kept revisiting their beef unprompted in presidential-level conversations, absolutely unhinged.
You've written about that
famous question and exchange that he and I had at that August 6th, 2015, very first GOP presidential debate. It was 8 years ago now. The whole nation was watching. It was the first. It was exciting. And he and I sparred over, what was definitely a tough question about things he'd said about women. And he interrupted it with only Rosie O'Donnell. And the crowd laughed. And you analyzed that in a way that made so much sense. Can you do that here?
First of all, I'm just realizing how much you changed my life with that question, because the entire direction of my life changed in that moment. When he said the Rosie O'Donnell line, I actually stood up and walked toward the TV, and I said, I don't know what's happening here, but this is big.
But here's the thing. Rosie, she never backed down. If Trump thought she was going to shrivel up and disappear, he clearly had no idea who he was dealing with. Because Rosie fights back, and she fights back hard. She turned every insult into comedy gold, used every attack as fuel, and never let him have the last word. She didn't just clap back, she went nuclear every chance she got. When Trump's presidency spiraled into one scandal after another, Rosie was right there keeping the receipts. She torched him in interviews, shredded him on Twitter, and dragged him through the mud in her comedy specials. Even in the darkest moments of the Trump era, Rosie was there, roasting him into oblivion. And now, the saga continues. Trump is still out here seething, still finding ways to work Rosie into his rants, and still acting like he's battling a ghost from 2006. And Rosie, she's still taking the shots, still making him spiral, and still proving that no matter what he does, she's always one step ahead.
What has it been like for you having the President of the United States criticize your physical appearance?
Well, not only my physical appearance, everything. My sexuality, my parenting, my wife. Like, he went really batshit crazy.
What is it about you that drew this out of him?
Well, that I told the truth about him at a time when everyone was afraid. But then I did the really offensive thing to him. I told the truth that he was bankrupt 4 times.
That's what did it.
He's not a self-made man, that he got his daddy's money, and that he also notoriously ripped off all these private contractors, family businesses all over New Atlantic City, went under because of his unethical ways. So I told the truth about him 10 years ago at a time when anyone could have found out those truths about him. But the media decided not to print it while he was running, not to talk about the fact that there was no equivalence between him and Hillary Clinton. They acted like he was a legitimate candidate. So I feel like mainstream media is really responsible.
At this point, it's less of a feud and more of a one-sided obsession. Because while Rosie lives her life, roasting him whenever she feels like it, Trump is somewhere in Mar-a-Lago, pacing back and forth, probably watching her latest video and muttering, "Total disaster," under his breath. Rosie O'Donnell did not come to play. She came to obliterate. The moment she opened her mouth, it was like watching a verbal meteor crash straight into Trump's ego. She tore into his shady business deals, his presidency's greatest flops, and, of course, his never-ending social media meltdowns. But the real kicker? She called him the biggest con America ever fell for. Ouch. And she didn't stop there. Rosie lit him up like a 4th of July fireworks show, mocking his obsession with crowd sizes, his disastrous handling of, well, everything, and his reality TV approach to politics. She even dragged his Twitter ex-exile, joking that Elon Musk practically let him back just for the entertainment value. The audience, they lost it. Gasps, howls of laughter, standing ovations. It was like a roast on steroids. Social media erupted, with fans celebrating her absolute demolition job, while Trump loyalists scrambled to do damage control. Rosie didn't just drop a bomb, she set the whole political internet on fire.
That's interesting. How come we never heard from the hospital or the doctors? How come we never heard from anyone but his fake doctor, whose name he doesn't recall? I'm really flabbergasted at how much he gets away with. I really am. Don't let him get away with anything else, people. And come on, one of you young, hungry journalists, young, somebody in your 20s, just out of college, do a big piece on this. Make it a whole YouTube story. Do it. People will watch it because, we need some answers.
And just like clockwork, Trump completely lost it. The moment Rosie's rant started making waves, his tiny thumbs got to work, furiously pounding out a rage-fueled, all-caps meltdown on Truth Social. It was the usual Trump special. Rosie is a loser, a disaster, and somehow bad for America, as if she personally caused inflation or designed his bad golf courses. But here's where it got interesting. His usual cheer squad? Crickets. No frantic Fox News segments, no furious defenders, just Trump spiraling into the void. Solo. Even his most loyal allies seemed to realize that picking a fight with Rosie was a losing battle. And honestly, on the Trump meltdown scale, this one ranked somewhere between his post-election rage and his beef with a Sharpie map. Classic overreaction, but with a pinch of desperation. He can't help himself. Rosie lives rent-free in his head, and every time she drags him, he proves her right.
Because Donald Trump has been mad at you for a very long time.
Over a decade.
Over a decade.
Yes.
And did it sort of start? It started from The View, yes?
The View.
Yeah. And it's been really, we've sort of made the joke on the show that he's flip-flopped on everything except you.
It's actually very true.
And just like that, the media went wild. Late-night hosts pounced like hungry wolves, with Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and Seth Meyers turning Trump's meltdown into primetime comedy gold. Even news anchors couldn't keep a straight face as they reported on yet another round of Trump versus Rosie, the never-ending saga. Then came the meme explosion. Twitter, X, became a war zone of viral edits. Rosie body-slamming Trump WWE-style mock movie posters for revenge of the O'Donnell, and even a deepfake of Trump shouting, "Not Rosie again," like a horror movie victim. Hashtags like "Nancher Trump can't handle Rosie" and "Nancher Rosie roast 2025" shot to the top of trending. But did it actually change anything? Not really. Trump's diehard fans called it a hit job. His critics laughed until they cried, and everyone else? Just another day in the circus. But one thing's clear. Rosie landed a haymaker, and Trump's ego might never recover. At this point, it's almost scientific fact. Trump cannot ignore Rosie O'Donnell. She could be minding her own business, adopting puppies or baking cookies, and somehow he'd still find a way to rage tweet about her. The man has feuded with world leaders, yet nothing seems to rattle him like Rosie casually torching him with a mic.
Rosie O'Donnell, who's had a very, very long feud with Donald Trump, recently tweeted about how Barron Trump, the 10-year-old son of Donald Trump, might possibly suffer from autism. Now, she did so in a tweet where she wrote, "Barron Trump autistic? If so, what an amazing opportunity to bring attention to the autism epidemic." Now, I should state that she has a 3-year-old who was diagnosed with high-functioning autism. And even so, I hate that she tweeted that.
And that's because Rosie is a master at pressing Trump's most fragile buttons. She doesn't just insult him, she makes him look ridiculous. She turns his tantrums into punchlines, his blunders into comedy specials, and his thin skin into a national running joke. And Trump? He can't stand it. It all boils down to his ego and addiction to media attention. He sees every insult as a personal attack on his legacy, every joke as a threat to his brand. The irony? His overreactions are what keep these moments alive. If he ignored Rosie, the headlines would die down. But because he just can't help himself, the world gets to sit back, grab the popcorn, and enjoy another classic Trump meltdown. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that Trump never lets anything go, and Rosie knows it. This isn't just another celebrity feud, it's a battle etched into pop culture history. Rosie just delivered another knockout punch, and Trump, despite all his power and platform, is stuck screaming into the void, trying to spin the story in his favor.
I hear this all the time.
Go ahead, I'm probably not going to answer.
What are your thoughts on Donald Trump and his comments that he's made recently?
He will never be president.
But let's break this down. Who actually won? Rosie, hands down. She didn't just wipe the floor with him, she took the whole mop, threw it in a comedy blender, and served up a fresh roast for the world to enjoy. Her remarks landed exactly as intended, setting the internet on fire, making headlines, and putting Trump in the exact place he hates most, on the defensive. Trump, on the other hand, did what Trump does best, panic and overreact. He blasted out his usual all-caps tantrums, but even his most devoted fans struggled to keep up the energy. The reaction felt weaker this time, almost like they've seen this meltdown before, because, let's be honest, they have. So, what's next? Rosie might take another swing, keeping the momentum alive. Trump might dig himself deeper with a fresh batch of incoherent insults. Or, plot twist, another celebrity jumps in, adding fuel to the fire. One thing's for sure. This feud isn't over. Rosie's living in Trump's head rent-free, and the longer he fixates on her, the more she wins.